Okay, so I'm going to show you an alternative to growing in pots, and this is something I do sometimes when I'm growing a real lot of plants. This year I'm not growing as much, but I actually have more soil than I know what to do with. So when this happens, I have to do something with the soil, and I can either A, leave it outside in the big pile if I have a place to do that, and this year I don't really have room in my garden, though I do plan on extending the garden out another 4 feet and putting in a couple of soil boxes in there just for storing soil. When I get to the point where I get this much soil and I don't know what to do with it, I can't just discard it or anything. There's really nowhere for me to put it. So one of the things I do is I store my soil in the used bags that I have for things like, my gravel. You can see I just bought all this gravel to put down here. A lot of times I'll take those and I'll store my soil in that. Or like this is just a bag for the hardwood mulch that I get. And so a lot of times what I do is I screen off my hardwood mulch like you see here. I'll separate the soil part of it from the hardwood bark mulch part, and I do that because I take the mulch that's coming out there, which is really good mulch when you buy that hardwood mulch, because it's really been sitting there for a very long time. So that is almost black like charcoal, and when it gets like that, that's really good for a top mulch because it really feeds your plants. You can see my plants are doing real good. So I'll separate the soil from those bags and I'll use that to make the soil for this. And I also use the bark mulch, the part that's not fully broken down yet, as a top mulch for the top of the plant. And that way it keeps the plant from drying out. And the plants just grow better when you do that. Even in pots, they grow much better. Regardless, they do better than rock. I was doing, not to get off too much of the side note, but I've been doing rock for a while. Rock works, but it's not as good as using that hardwood mulch that's been probably composting for about 5 or 6 years. And when it composts that long, it doesn't fully break down yet, but man, that is some good stuff to use as a top mulch in your pots. So what I do is I just take the excess soil and I put it in a bag like this, and I store it. And I can either store it somewhere in the back over here or somewhere out of the way. I'm not going to trip on it. And when I'm ready for it, I will, take that soil and I'll use it and fill up more pots and grow more plants. The alternative to doing that is, and I'm not going to do it in this video because I just don't want to bust these bags open. These bags are sealed and I can move them around and they're not spilling all over the place. But an alternative to that is to fill these bags up, and I'll do that for you in a minute. I gotta put the camera down and do this, but I'll fill it up and then I'll use the bag as a growing medium, like a pot, instead of using pots itself. So if you don't want to go out and buy pots, that's an alternative for you to use instead of going out and buying pots, and just simply take your old bags from your old garden soil and roll them back like this. I'll do one for you. I'll show you how I do it. And you can just fill it with your soil like this, and just, you got to put a couple holes on the bottom of the bag, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then you make your soil and put it back in that bag, and you grow straight out of the bag. And I've been doing that for years. And in fact, that's what I used to mostly do, is through these bags like that, because a lot of people just throw them out, and I dumpster dive and pull all the bags out and bring them home, and there was my garden. Until I started getting pots, and I started getting the free pots over there, and then eventually I kind of stopped doing that. But now the alternative to doing that, if you don't have the soil issue and you just want something to start up and grow really fast, you just basically take one of these bags of soil, drop it on the ground a few times, make sure it's uncompressed, because right now that is compressed like a brick. So you need to break that up on the inside, and just cut a couple of X's in there. You could cut like 6 X's and grow your plants directly inside that little bag of soil. You don't need the pots or anything. I would do that right now, except as you can see, my greenhouse is completely filled. I got pots everywhere. Everything is filled up. I've grown just about everything I need to grow, and for me to just this I don't have any room for. Or I would do one for you just for the sake of showing it to you on video. But that's an alternative. Some people call that guerrilla farming. That's a good option that you can use to grow your plants. Let me fill up one of these bags, and then I'll show you what it looks like, and maybe we'll plant one out. So Okay, so there it is. I basically filled it up to where I want it. You can go as high as you want or as low as you want. I don't honestly recommend filling this thing up so it's like, you know, 2 feet off the ground. That becomes unstable and it might want to flop over. And if you're looking to spread it out a little bit more, just fill it up all the way, seal up the ends of this bag by heating it with a lighter or tie it off with a tie wrap, lay it sideways, and again, cut your holes in the side of the bag, 6 holes, 7 holes, 10 holes, whatever you want, and grow your plants in each one of those holes. They'll grow beautifully and they work really good. So that's basically what I do as an alternative to using pots. It does work, it's very cost effective. And make sure, if you do this, you got to make sure that you cut a couple of holes on the very bottom of the bag. A couple knife slices, I'd say about 6 of them, all along the bottom of the bag before you set the bag where you want it. And then you make sure you do that when it's in place, because if you cut too many holes and you go to lift it up, it could rip and the whole thing will come apart. So make sure you get it where you want it, lean it to one side, cut your holes, lean it back. That's my best advice to you. Or cut the holes in advance, put the bag where you want it, and then fill it in place. Don't try to cut all holes and then lift it up and go walking halfway across your yard with the holes on the bottom, because it might rip and you're going to have a big mess to clean up. But this is a method that works very well, very effective, very cost effective. Like I say, when I have this much soil, when I've been going through my wood chip pile, and I've got so much soil. I have more soil than I actually know what to do with. I've never really had that situation before, but my wood chips are finally broken down, and I'm to that point where I need to start using it. And here we are. We are at a point where I got more soil than I actually know what to do with. So I am growing all kinds of vegetables this year. I know I'm starting a little later, but it took me a while to actually filter out all this soil. So I have some more pots I'm going to fill up. And probably all the excess with the soil, I'll probably either start filling these bags or something. But give that a try. If you don't want to go to the store and buy pots, or you're afraid to ask the garden clerk if they got the pots that they're throwing out or something, and you want enough pots so you can start doing a lot of gardening, give this a try. It's a really cost-effective way to do it. If you don't have the bags from last year's soil or anything like that, go dumpster diving and you'll find these bags, or soil bags, pretty much everywhere you go. You'll find them if you look around enough for them. Just dig them out and grab them and bring them home, and you're good to go. Alright, so that was just a quick video on an alternative to using pots, as well as a way to store your excess soil in the event you got too much like me. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.
Bye.